been a defining feature of Russia's 3-year-old all-out onslaught on Ukraine. War crimes, crimes against humanity, atrocities committed against civilians by military commanders and even allegedly by President Vladimir Putin himself. If the day comes when any of these allegations ever see the inside of a courtroom, prosecutors will probably have a strong body of evidence to prosecute their case. Here's why. Ukrainian authorities say tens of thousands of Ukrainian children were taken from occupied territories back to Russia, housed in summer camps, orphanages, foster homes, even outright adopted by Russian parents. Here's the thing. Ukrainian and Western experts say Russia made little to no effort to actually identify their parents nor notify them. And what's even worse, the decision appears to have been made at the highest levels of government, President Putin and his children's advocate. For that reason, international criminal court prosecutors charged him and the advocate with war crimes, abducting children. After Russian forces pulled out of Bucha and other towns north of Kyiv in March 2022, Ukrainian officials made a stomach-churning discovery. Bodies, corpses, lying in the streets, some with hands bound, blindfolded, some killed, execution-style, bodies dumped in alleys and basements. The scenes in Bucha and Izium and elsewhere shocked the world, torpedoed ceasefire talks between Kyiv and Moscow, and galvanized support for Ukraine. The United States sanctioned a top military commander in charge of the area for extrajudicial killings. Adding insult to injury, the brigade linked to the killings was honored, decorated by Putin just weeks later. Since late 2022, Russian commanders have pummeled civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. Things like power stations, transmission lines, trying to cow and exhaust the Ukrainian population. Generally speaking, international humanitarian law says it's illegal for civilian locations to be targeted unless there's a legitimate military reason. Like, for example, if a military unit is hiding in a power plant. That's certainly not the case here. April 2022. Scores of civilians waiting for trains at the Kramatorsk train station were killed when a short-range Tochka-U ballistic missile hit. The missile was armed with cluster munitions too. The preponderance of evidence pointed to Russian troops as the origin of the missile. You can't fire a missile at a crowd of civilians waiting for a train. Period. That's a violation of international law. That's a war crime. You know what else is a war crime? Executing prisoners of war. That appears to be what happened to this Ukrainian soldier, Alexander Matsievsky, who went missing in December 2022 while fighting to defend the city of Bakhmut. A couple of months later, a video appeared on social networks. Filmed by Russian soldiers, Matsievsky is shown smoking a cigarette, glaring at the camera. He then says, "Slava Ukraina," glory to Ukraine, before the Russians curse at him and gun him down. The United Nations says at least 71 Ukrainian POWs have been executed by Russian soldiers since February 2022. Hundreds have also reported torture and sexual violence. So, will any of this actually be prosecuted anywhere, anytime soon? Sadly, most likely not.